Chris, it's hard to think about Alabama being kind of discarded off to the side. They are preseason top 5, but Georgia, Ohio State are getting the bulk of those are your national championship teams. That's going to be the national championship game. If somebody wants to look outside of that, they seem to be gravitating toward Oregon or Texas or some other spots. Is Michigan going to repeat? Can they retool and come back? Very few are giving Alabama that shot to be Alabama still. But this guy that's coaching them, I understand he's not won 7 national championships, but he took far less resources, far less talent, and made it to a national championship game. They do have a returning starting quarterback. They're finding guys like this Ryan Williams, a wide receiver, who's showing out in camp, who was one of the top wide receiver prospects in the nation. Are we discounting Bama too quickly?
Mark, it's really interesting because, to your point, when is the last time we came into a college football season where we'd get like this deep in conversation and not mention the Crimson Tide? I mean, that to me is the biggest difference. Like, it's the fact that we're having conversations about SEC football, and it's taking us 10, 15 minutes into the convo to talk about Alabama. And they're not the lead story anymore, right? With Georgia, with Texas, with Oklahoma. I mean, I remember, Mark, I was there at SEC Media Days in Dallas, and I think it was the Tuesday or Wednesday, that Steve Sarkisian and Kalen DeBoer spoke at Media Days. And typically when you'd wake up on Alabama Day, you would think you'd wake up and be like, oh, it's Alabama Day. I woke up that Wednesday, Mark, and my first thought, it's Texas Day. It's Steve Sarkisian Day. And, oh, by the way, Kalen DeBoer's kicking off the day. You see, so like that was just a totally different dynamic, obviously, in the thought process. Are we discounting Alabama too quickly? I mean, again, they're preseason top 5. So, I mean, I feel like they're getting respect. I feel like, if anything, Mark, Bama's getting, I don't think more respect than they deserve is the way to put it. I'm not saying that because I've got Bama at a 10-2 team and in the college football playoff, but they're definitely getting the benefit of the doubt that they're still Alabama. Now, there's tons of talent on that roster. They got one of the most talented rosters in college football still, Mark. You mentioned Kalen DeBoer. All he's ever done is win. I mean, 104-12. Why should we expect otherwise? I know this is a different beast, but why should we expect otherwise? So, I think Bama, maybe they are kind of flying under the radar, Mark, a little bit, flying under the radar, which I think could be a good spot for them, not having all the spotlight and the big expectations. They get to use that as a chip on the shoulder and try to prove the doubters wrong. So, Bama's not getting as much chatter, but flying under the radar in regards to being slept on to be, maybe they are from a standpoint of being a contender for the national championship, because I've seen no one pick Alabama to win it all. Nobody. It's either Georgia, Ohio State, maybe Oregon if you're trying to be crazy, maybe Ole Miss if you're trying to be different, maybe Texas, right? I've seen nobody pick Alabama. So, which again, though, Mark, I think is fair. Like, I think if you're just saying Bama is just going to just keep it going and they're gonna win it all, does the loss of Nick Saban mean nothing? I mean, it has to, Mark. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Even as good as Kalen DeBoer may be, is he the GOAT? Is he that good? You talk to folks in Tuscaloosa, they think the coaching staff top to bottom is better than it was last year. Jalen Milroe back. Maybe some questions at wide receiver, but I think they've got some dudes there with Jeremy Bernard and Kendrick Law and God, his name's slipping my mind. Ryan, the 5-star true freshman wide receiver.
Ryan Williams.
There you go. We're forgetting the last name. They've got some dudes, I think, on the outside of the step. But offensive line's got to be better than defensively. They've got questions in the secondary, Mark. So I think there's more questions surrounding Bama than there ever have been before. But it's going to be a fascinating year one at Kalen DeBoer. But you have to think, as talented as they are, again, there's got to be some sort of step back. Even if it's minuscule, you lost the GOAT, right? So, I don't know. Bama's fascinating. I don't think anybody really knows what to expect from them.